Hi, welcome back to Brown Divinity, and today I'm going to be talking about sage, how to use it, what it is, and let's jump into it. So let's get into a brief history of sage. Sage has been used for thousands of years all over the world, and pretty much in lots of different cultures. It's used for spiritual cleansing, healing. It's also been used for aromatherapy, and particularly in North America where we are, it has been used for rituals for like spiritual cleansing, and that specifically is called smudging. So using sage for cleansing and smudging is a little different. I would say smudging is more of using it for a ritual of some sorts, like for manifestation or like some type of ceremony type of thing. But either way, that's what sage has been used for. I think smudging is like really important, and I love sage to use it in many different ways. And at first I didn't realize why I felt so connected to it, but in doing further research on my own genealogy and my family history, I have found that I actually do have a connection to it, and I think that's why I really like to use sage in my home. So if you don't know, sage has been used by Native Americans forever, but there also were Black Native Americans, and there is this debate like whether Black Native Americans were slaves brought from the slave trade to Indian Native American tribes. But there's other research to say that that is actually not the case. And I'm not going to get too deep into it in this video, but I do personally believe that not all Black Indians, not all Black Native Americans were brought. They were already there. There are many books that you can research on this topic, one being They Came Before Columbus by Ivis Vaughn. And then there's another book I found called Black Indian Genealogy Research, African American Ancestors Among the Five Civilized Tribes, an expanded edition. I forgot who wrote it, but I will put their name and information in my video and in my description, because it's very interesting research. And I think if you're Black, then it will help you find out more where you come from, because there has been so many different stories about us and where we come from. And I do believe that we all descended maybe from Africa. That's where it all started. But I do think that we were all over the world prior to colonization. There's a really great historic researcher here on YouTube. His name is Dane Calloway. Check him out if you want a better comprehensive understanding of this topic. He goes way deeper into just overall hidden knowledge about Black people. His channel I will put inside my description box so you can check it out. I feel like a lot of us Black Americans don't really know where we come from. So when you find something that gives you like a sliver of the truth, I think it's really important to explore it. And I've been doing my own research on my own family and like talking to my older relatives, and they're telling me about our history as Native Americans. And I think a lot of this history was lost because, one, we couldn't even like tell our history. Like, for example, during the slave trade, Africans couldn't talk in their native tongue. They couldn't sing their songs, and they couldn't express their culture. So of course the children forgot it. And my auntie was telling me how they also couldn't talk about their Native American history because it was against the law at one point. So it's really important to talk to your ancestors if you have any, and see what they know and what their parents knew. And I think we kind of lost that because we didn't do it for so long, so it's just forgotten. But if you can get a genealogy researcher to learn about your family, then that'd be really great. Anyhow, that's my connection to it and why I really love sage. So there are a lot of varieties of sage that you can try. So I'm going to go through a few because you do have options. If you don't like one particular sage, there are so many kinds that you can try. Some sage that I'm actually testing myself and have actually like been in contact with would be, and I showed this on my last video showing you my samples, but I'll show you again. So I have cedar sage, I have desert, white. This one isn't as thick as the leaves that I have. Not trying to flex or nothing, but the Brown Divinity sage is like real thick, if you know. Juniper sage, black sage, which is actually really beautiful. Yerba, also beautiful. And my favorite sage is blue sage. I just love the smell of blue sage. It's like super minty. This is dragon's blood sage. Now this sage is like really strong, and with a name like that, it makes a lot of sense. But dragon's blood, I would say, is used for like when you really need like a deep cleanse. And I do love this sage. I use it on my patio a few times, and like the smell just lingered on me, like on my clothing. It lingered in the house. Like it's really potent. So if you're using that, ventilate, open up the windows. I like to mix my white sage with lavender, for example, because I feel like it makes it smell more appealing to me. As someone who doesn't particularly like the potence of white sage, I like to add dried lavender to it, and like I love like the mix of smells. But you can also mix it with like so many herbs. You can mix it with like dried cinnamon, lemongrass. I love lemongrass so much. Mint, rosemary. Rosemary is also really good for your hair too. But yeah, you can mix it with so many different herbs and like do like some type of test. If you don't like a particular sage, then maybe mix it with something and you might be able to get better use out of it, like a more enjoyable smell. You can also mix it with Palo Santo, which is something that you can burn on its own. And Palo Santo has like a very light scent. It smells amazing, like heavenly. That's why it's called the holy wood. Now that we've discovered like what sage is, where it comes from, who uses it, the different terms, the varieties, now we can get into like the actual beneficial uses of them. A lot of this is backed by science. So one, sage is used for aromatherapy. It makes you feel a certain way. It helps relieve anxiety. Sage can also be used for protecting yourself like spiritually. If you're around somebody who's like really negative, or you've had negative energy in your home where you're dealing with like entities, I think sage can be really powerful for that. White sage, I think, is best for that, or the dragon's blood. You can use it to cleanse yourself and your own like aura, your auric field. And when I used to go like to like my food service jobs that I used to not like with a passion, I used to be around like so many negative people, like draining people, and I would just come home feeling like so negative, like I just absorbed all their energy. So I would sometimes come home and I would light my sage and I would just like just saging my whole self, because it just really helped. Like when you're around negative people, that relief that sage brings you, like it cleanses you. Because like somebody who's an empath, you can like feel other people's energy, and that can be good or bad. You can take in the energy of a positive person and feel like on a cloud, or you can take the energy of a negative person and now all of a sudden you're being drained and you're not feeling like yourself and you're low vibe. So sage yourself when you need it. You can use it for rituals. Like I said earlier, I like to use my sage for manifestation rituals. The other day, I just did a manifestation ritual with water. Basically using water to manifest, because water is life and we are made of mostly water. But I'm going to do a complete video on that once I have got everything from that I like wrote down and stuff. Sage can also be antibacterial, and you can do some research on that. So it can improve the air quality around you and like the quality of your like immune function, which is great for like cold and flu season, or like last year when everybody was worried about their immune system and taking tissue paper. Sage also can improve your memory. So if you're studying, maybe light some sage around you. I know I'm doing a lot of studying right now for my real estate license, so I like to use sage for that. And like I feel like it makes me focus, because I know for me, I'm very sensory when it comes to smell, and having that like that smell brings me kind of back to the present moment. Now, I like to think about the future a lot. Like I'm an overthinker, and when I have something that kind of grounds me to this moment, such as like an incense or sage, it really helps me. And then overall, it just has like all those positive effects. Like I said, you can do some more research, because, you know, don't just take it from me. I think it's like not really placebo, but I feel like when you understand why something is working, it's going to work better for you, because like subconsciously you're not being resistant to it. You're like, oh, I know how this works, so I know why it works, so it's going to work for you. Like I feel like if you're just like listening to me say it but you don't really believe it, like nothing's going to happen for you. You have to like remove that subconscious block that might be blocking all the beneficial uses that sage can have for you. Okay, so let's get into try smudging when. Try smudging when you just had like a big argument, you just feel a little upset, and you want to kind of reset your vibe, reset your home, and sage. Next, like I said earlier, use sage when a negative person has like entered your home. You know, we all have those family members, those people who we love, but they're a little negative. So, you know, after your cousin, you know, who's a little negative enters your house, say goodbye, get your sage, light your sage, and just you know. Use sage for when you just feel a low vibe overall and you just want to pick me up. Use sage when you move into a new house or apartment because you want to kind of cleanse the energy from whoever was there, because you know they could have been the best person or they might have been like a low vibe person. But I would just say if you want to reset your home, use sage to cleanse your space, and now it's your space, so you want your imprint there. I also forgot to mention in my last point that you can use sage to cleanse your crystals, like when you first get new crystals, so that's also important. Also, use sage if you get a new car too. One, it makes the car like smell like you. And I know I like earthy smells. Like I like when like my area smells really earthy, like sage and Palo Santo and incense. And I like that like real natural scent. But just be careful using sage around your pets, because you know certain pets are sensitive. From what I know, sage is safe for dogs and cats, but like any smoke, you want to make sure you're using it in a well ventilated area. Also, maybe don't use it directly around your pets, like have them in a different room, because like you don't want to expose them to like smoke, even though it might be good for them, which it can be. Make sure you're always saging in a well ventilated area for your pets and for yourself. Okay, so lastly, if you don't know, we'll just talk about how to get started with using sage. And I think the most important part of using sage is your intention. Like, set your intention, because just like with anything, if you don't know why you're doing it, what's the point? So make sure when you're using sage, you have a reason and you make that known. Like for example, I'm going to use my sage and I'm going to say, I intend to cleanse the energy from my home. Set the intention for why you're using your sage. And I like to set that like out loud. I feel like when you say the words, it has like more of a powerful effect. And then like just take some deep breaths, maybe get into a more clear head space. Just open up your windows. You want to make sure you're getting all the negative energy out. You don't want to trap it in there. And when I light this sage, I like to imagine it going into like every corner of my home and like visualize the smoke cleansing and like making little patterns. And then me personally, like I just get my sage and I just wave it around. It's really fun. And then I like to have my sage in these bowls because they're pretty. And also sometimes you want to just like do this, and this is it's like a shell. I forgot what it's called. It starts with an A. I can't pronounce it. It's like abalone or something. While I'm using this sage, I also like to repeat like affirmations or repeat my intention, like the reason that I'm saging in the first place. Like if I intended to, you know, clear my home, I like to say like periodically, I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing it. Please cleanse the home. And I like to also like add some gratitude in there, just like thank the universe for providing me with this, and just kind of feeling grateful for the sage. And you know, sage is, you know, a plant. It is life, and I want to thank the sage for letting me use it and just for being here. And lastly, have fun with it. You know, do a little dance. You don't have to make it so serious. I just be being silly with it, but I mean, you gotta make it fun, right? Also, like use a smudge bowl if you want to keep flyaways from like burning stuff up. I remember one time I had some sage and I was using it and like a piece fell off and like burnt the carpet. So be careful with that. Lastly, for fire safety, like don't leave your burning sage unattended. You don't want to burn down anything. Okay, so I think that wraps up my video. Sage has been transformative in my life and I just feel really connected to sage. It's just seems very spiritual to me. It's just a part of my life. Comment down below your favorite sage and what you like about it and just your experience with sage. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.